Welcome back to the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. This is one of our 3 football shows we're offering this fall. We also have Alec Luce's show. I think he recently did an interview with Harrison Smith. Check his show out. Also, Jeff Diamond's Vikings NFL Insider with the former Vikings general manager. Does a great job breaking down camp and how decisions get made behind the scenes. He's been very prescient on some salary cap stuff and some insider stuff over the years. We appreciate you listening. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
Scott for Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Yes, water is essential, but what if it came with sparkle and zero hassle? With Connecticut, enjoy softer skin, shiny fixtures, spotless dishes, and worry-free drinking water. It's home services made easy with 36 months, 0% financing during our State Fair special. Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Financing based on credit approval. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And the Viking Update Show is presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and OnX Hunt and the OnX app. Tell you more about them and Clamshell Beach Resorts and Twill in the Dining Galleria here in a little bit. Let's start with this. Usually I don't really care what the national talking heads say very much, but this one struck me. This morning I heard Dan Orlavsky on ESPN say the Vikings are so loaded that if J.J. McCarthy is average this year, the Vikings should get to the conference championship game, maybe even win it, get to the Super Bowl, maybe even win it all. How does that hit you?
I mean, I'm not going to disagree. I mean, I guess like the one thing I would say is whenever you're talking like, about making the Super Bowl with an average quarterback, I think it does give you a little bit of pause. Like, it's okay. Like, yeah, we have seen that on occasion. We have seen teams be able to kind of weather that just general okayness, if that's a word, from their quarterback to get to a Super Bowl. But I do think that you ultimately want to be able to rely on your quarterback to make plays and win games for you that deep into the season. But it does really kind of jive with what we've talked about a lot on this show, is that I do think that they are loaded pretty much everywhere else. I mean, we can look at the secondary a little bit and nitpick, but running backs, receivers, tight ends, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, and secondary, but like everywhere, they just have a ton of talent. And I'll admit that I have been somewhat surprised by some of the national dismissiveness of this team that I've seen. I've seen very plugged in, well-informed people, like not really kind of, I think, giving this team the respect that it deserves from just a pure talent standpoint and from a coaching standpoint. Those are two major things. When you have great coaches on both sides of the ball and then you have loaded roster, man, it's really compelling. And so to hear Orlavsky say that, to hear him kind of articulate, similar thought to mine is I think you and I both have said that I'm not expecting J.J. McCarthy to be Patrick Mahomes right away. I don't think that is the case, but I don't think he needs to be, just given everything around him that seems to be so good right now. It doesn't guarantee anything, but yeah, I'm bullish on this team in large part because of the talent that they have around McCarthy and the talent, in the coaching, on the coaching staff to make something happen.
And to really parse the comment, if we break it down, 32 NFL teams, if J.J. McCarthy is like the 14th, the 16th best quarterback in the league, that doesn't sound very impressive when we just say it, right? Average sounds average. Mm-hmm. Then you start thinking about how many really good quarterbacks there are in the league right now. I mean, it's hard to get to the top 12 right now. Mm-hmm. But I do think if he plays pretty well, he's right there in that 12, 13, 14 range. And that might be good enough when you consider the quality of players that would be ahead of him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a deep position right now. It's funny. I think it's both deep, but then there is a cliff that you fall off of, maybe around 20 to 18, 19, once you get to there.
Maybe even 16 or 17. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the bad ones are bad, but the good ones are great. And so, if he can be closer to that, I agree. Like maybe it's 14, 15, 13, somewhere in there. Then you are approaching a high level quarterback, in this league right now. And if we do also factor in from what it apparently has looked like in training camp is that this defense is just an absolute monster. I think that's good enough. I think that if the Brian Flores defense with this souped up, defensive line with a little bit, at least some interesting pieces in the secondary, showing up so far, now becomes like, goes from being one of the top defenses in the league to like number 1 or number 2, like with a bullet, then I think that then you look at it and say, okay, this team, if they can keep opposing offenses out of the end zone, and not put a lot of pressure on McCarthy, and just especially early in the season while he's finding his way, just like win games, 20-17, win games, 17-14, like that will, I think, all really bode well for the way that this team can develop and grow as the season goes along, as McCarthy gets more comfortable, as he figures things out. Then hopefully by December into January, you're looking at a team that is just dangerous on all levels.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it. I'm looking up right now. So I'm looking down at my phone, and, I'm also wondering how many of the NFC contenders are actually better or not worse. I think the Lions aren't as good because of their losses. I think the Bucks, I think they overachieved last year. It's pretty impressive the way they overachieved, but I'm not sure I can see them doing it again. The Commanders, listen, I love Jaden Daniels, and I like their coaching staff, and I like a lot of things about that team. The fact that Terry McLaurin has a lengthy holdout, he's by far their best receiver. He's also the safety, he's the comfort player in that offense for the young quarterback. That worries me if I'm a fan of that team. I think the Eagles are great, but it's hard to repeat. It's just hard to get lucky. It's hard to stay healthy. It's hard to deal with all the wear and tear, all the expectations. So even though I don't think the Eagles are worse on paper, I doubt if they'll be as good in reality. Packers have been a mystery to me. I mean, if Jordan Love plays well with a dynamic new receiver, and everything they have, they could be really good. I just don't know. I just don't know how to evaluate that team. So, I mean,
the Rams are the other
the Rams
team that
are the one that could be. They were
better,
really good last year, and they could be dramatically better this year.
Yep. So overall, I agree with you that there are very few. I would say there are very few teams right now that I would look at, just like, again, if we assume that McCarthy is not a disaster, is not just a flame out or just a struggling young quarterback, that he is a good to very good option at quarterback. There just are few teams that I would look at if you play them in the playoffs and say, I can't pick them. I can't pick them against them. And I think right now, Eagles, maybe it's the Rams. I want to see what the Packers look like, for a little bit before I make any kind of determination there. But, you just go position by position with most of these teams. And there are very few teams that the Vikings are going to, if you went 22 offense and defense, that they're not winning the majority of them, in the just head to head matchups. And so, I think that the optimism surrounding this team is not unreasonable. I think it's on solid ground, and there's a lot to be excited about. And Orlavsky really just kind of underscores that, because they're just too many talented players all over the place for them not to at least be very competitive. I just don't see, what was the over under is like 8.5 or so, which is just like that's unfathomable to me. I don't see how that, and Vegas always knows, and they always understand something that we don't, but that's one of those that's just like, man, I don't see any way that it's not, that the over under isn't 9.5 or 10, and, you know, something like that rather than 8.5. That seems way too low to
and
me.
whenever we talk about Vegas too, I think it's always important to remind people Vegas doesn't care about your team. They're not making an emotional judgment. They are setting a line that they think will bring in the most amount of money bet on both sides. And they're trying to prevent big losses, obviously. And I just think the national perception has lagged, and they are playing. I think the 8.5 there's got to be some football analysis in there, but I think it's more about gauging national perception and setting a line where Viking fans will go bet on the team and Viking detractors will be happy to bet against.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, certainly like you can look at a team that won 14 last year and you're like, okay, did they overachieve? Did they get a little bit of lucky in one score games or whatever you want to say? Of course. Yeah. But I just think they're better everywhere except for we'll see what quarterback is. And the one, if we want to pour some cold water on it, one thing that we can say that I think maybe we haven't talked about enough is that for most of last season, Sam Darnold wasn't just a good quarterback, wasn't just mediocre, wasn't just all right. He was like MVP caliber. Like that's the production that he gave, and it elicited the 14 wins. Like it just like, so expecting McCarthy to do something similar to that, I think is unreasonable right now, but I don't think he has to be that to do it. But if you want to be negative about the Vikings, you can say for 15 weeks of last season, Sam Darnold was like one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the entire league. And that is unattainable for McCarthy. And that may be right. But I also just think that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done a very good job of supplementing this roster so that does not need to happen. And we'll see what happens. But I'm very bullish on them. And I think like I'm in agreement with Orlavsky on this point.
I have a lot more to say. You have a lot more to say about this, but we can save that for future weeks as the season approaches. For now, let's do this. Let's break down. We'll go back and forth and each of us pick, and we'll go up to like maybe 8 pivotal players on the roster. Not necessarily the best, not necessarily most important, although a couple will be pivotal players who could go one way or another and could make a big difference positively or negatively. First, though, I want to tell you about Giggly THC Beverages. That's GIGLI.com. Promo code GigglyNorth, GIGLI North, will get you up to 50% off your first order. After that, if you do any searching of Giggly on social media, it's probably popping up in your feed anyway. You'll find other discount codes. It's great. It's just, I just said it on the John Krawczynski show. I like cocktails. I like having a drink once in a while. I can't do it every night. It would be really stupid for me to try to do it every night. Giggly gives me the cocktail hit and satisfaction while making me feel good in the moment, but it also helps me sleep well, also helps me wake up next morning. I pop out of bed and I'm ready to roll all the things I have going on. It's great for my life. It'll be great for your life. GIGLI.com, promo code GigglyNorth. Healthy, natural ingredients, ashwagandha, ginseng, quick trip stations all over Minnesota. But I also recommend using the website. It shows up at your door. It's just good. Cocktails, seltzers, teas. It's fantastic stuff. GIGLI.com. Also want to let you know that, hey, this time of the year, if you have a boat, you're using your boat. It's time to get out there and let Onyx Fish help you find the next best bite. The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential. Onyx Fish also shows you hot spots, lake by lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. Download Onyx Fish on the Fish app. At the App Store, or go to onyxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game. Onyx Fish. There's also Onyx Hunt on that app. Check it out. All right, let's go back and forth. I will give you first shot. Let's do about 8 pivotal players. Mm-hmm. Who would you start with?
I'm going to start with Jeff Okudah. He by all accounts, he's had a very good camp so far. Physical, fitting in with the Brian Flores style, defense. And we've talked ad nauseum about some of the questions that we have about the secondary and about, do they have enough cornerbacks? Do they have, are they going to be able to replace Cam Bynum at safety? Like, there's just, of all the position groups, that is the one that has the highest number of question marks so far. And so if Jeff Okudah can play closer to his projections of what he was at Ohio State before injuries and other things have gotten in the way earlier on in his career, and if he's able to give the Vikings a real stand-up corner to play with Isaiah Rodgers and Byron Murphy and just get into that rotation, and be a lockdown guy, I just think it changes this defense in a major, major way and solves maybe the biggest issue that this defense has. And there are very, very few issues that this defense has. So it could go from this defense being very good to being maybe the best in the league if Okudah is able to carry over what we've seen and what we've heard about in camp so far into the regular season.
By the way, here at TalkNorth.com, as we continue to grow the network, we're going to add a fantasy football show. Randy Shaver and Kevin Gorg, it's going to be a blast. We're about to do our draft. And I started doing some research. The Vikings defense was like 12th to 15th in fantasy football ratings. That's another way. I mean, with their pass rush, I'm shocked. The only thing,
sacks, turnovers. I mean,
they play in a tough division. I can't, and they have a tough schedule, but I can't imagine that. That's crazy to me. That Okudah is a great first pick, and I agree with everything you said. I will go, my first choice in this matter will be Rondale Moore. He's coming off an injury. He just might not have the juice. It's possible he didn't have the juice. It's possible he don't have a big role. But I think when you give a dynamic talent like him to a creative coaching staff that finds all kinds of different ways to use their best players, and you have a team that we might be missing Jordan Addison for a few games early in the season, the inevitable injuries. Jalen Naylor was a good third receiver, but not a great third receiver last year. I just think Rondale Moore could be a game changer. He could also be your best return man. I think he could be the David Palmer on this team.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like how all of that plays out. I think the preseason games might be big for him, especially from a return standpoint. There certainly is an opening there for him to earn a spot. Cause, I'll just my colleague at The Athletic, Alec Lewis, was just kind of had his latest dispatch from camp was looking at the receiver position a little bit. And right now, his kind of assumption on the pecking order right now is Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, and maybe Ty Felton as the fourth. And then he said Jeshaun Jones is coming around and is looking intriguing. Lucky Jackson has some of the coach's attention as well. And so I think that there's work for Rondale Moore to do to make that impression and to really kind of wiggle into it. But it's certainly possible, if he can do it and give the Vikings that versatile threat that he was earlier on in his career in Arizona and what he was at Purdue. Like all of that would be fantastic. And certainly definitely worth watching, because I think especially sometimes when we look at what happens in camp, the ability for someone to separate or make up ground comes when the preseason games are going, and what do you really show in some of these games? And so, I'll be watching that one closely, but Rondale Moore is a good choice.
He's more of a flyer. Like Okudah is a great pick because Okudah should be a starter. Rondale Moore is a complete wild card. And the other thing is, you mentioned preseason games. I would guess preseason games would be a good training ground for him. And we can't forget that these days, the scrimmages with other NFL teams are probably most important. They're probably the most important thing they do in camp. So it'll be really interesting to see if he can flash in that regard. Who's your next pivotal player pick?
Another pick is, on the defensive side is Theo Jackson. Another guy who I think is really impressing so far in training camp and looks like he is prepared to play a greater role in the defense. And whether that is starting for Cam Bynum, whether that's mixing in with Josh Metellus, wherever they put Metellus, I think that the more players and the more options that Brian Flores has on the back end with his defense, the better off that they're going to be. And Jackson just has really, I think, warmed himself to this coaching staff with his instincts, with his work ethic, with his knowledge of the defense, with his scheme discipline. And this is not an easy defense to absorb and to do well. And so with his experience, in this defense and his ability to execute the way that Brian Flores wants, I think it gives him a real chance of being an important player. And yeah, again, I don't know if it's going to be a starter or as like a high level backup, but I think having him as sort of the Cam Bynum light will be big, because Bynum made a lot of big plays for this team last year and the last couple of years, and they need more kind of ball hawking, turnover prone type of guys to kind of take this defense over the top. So Theo Jackson's my next pick.
I'll get to my next pick here in a second. I do want to have you hear from Michael Russo, Talk North Star for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
And I want to tell you about my favorite men's clothing store in Minnesota, Twill in the Edina Galleria. It's Twill by Scott Dayton. My daughter's getting married later this month. I've already bought pretty much everything I need from Twill to go to that wedding and go to all the events. I have so much Twill stuff in my closet, but you always need something more for a special event. And so what did I do the other day? My wife and I went there and I bought a bow tie that will go with my tux that will match the color scheme of the wedding. I have bought recently some dress socks that will go with my tux and the other dressy things I'll be wearing. Also, my wife and I are going to take a warm weather vacation soon. I absolutely hate my bathing suits. I just hate them, but I never really want to go buy a bathing suit. So I just keep on wearing them and taking them on these trips. I go into Twill the other day and guess what they're selling now? Peter Millar bathing suits. And this is like I've gone from stuff I hate to stuff that, I mean, I could wear around the house. It's so comfortable. And it has the little pocket inside, so you can put a key in there or something, or money, or if you needed to. But I don't know if I've ever had that big a jump between something I hated to wear and something I can't wait to wear. Peter Millar makes great stuff. Today I'm wearing my Johnny O hat, my Stenstrom's polo, but Peter Millar and Johnny O are probably the brands I wear the most from there. I also wear a lot of Brax. But I tell you what, every time I walk into Twill, Scott has found a different brand that attracts my eye, and I go, okay, I'm going to need some of that as well. Great store, really relaxed, friendly people. They love being affiliated with Talk North. They love talking sports. Just go in there, introduce yourself, tell them we sent you. You'll have a good experience. Remember, gift certificates for people you care about. They're having a summer sale right now. My bathing suit was 40% off. Made it a steal. Go to twillmn.com. Sign up for their email alerts. They will not bother you much, but every once in a while they'll tell you if there's sale or an event's going on. I just have a great time there, and I appreciate everything Scott has done for the network. My next pick for pivotal player, I'm going to be like the old crusty jerk NFL coaches I covered when I first started covering the league and call him the kicker. The kicker has all the talent in the world. He can be a great positive. He also went through a slump last year. It concerns you when you deal with any young kicker. Even if the Vikings are really good, even if the Vikings are as good as you and I think they are, it's a tough schedule and a tough division. They're going to end up playing some close games. Some of these games are going to come down to kicks. I tend to be bullish on this kicker, but you just never really know. So I think he could go one way or the other, and he could make a big difference.
Yeah, I think he missed a couple the other day in training camp, so it's not like he's been perfect. And I mean, when you saw him at the start of last season before the injury and all of that, I mean, it was like, man, this guy is nails. And there was no doubts whatsoever. He was a machine, and he just has not quite had the same like confidence or just like reliability since coming back. And so I do think it's a big training camp for him. I think it's a big preseason for him just to try and get some of that mojo back and get back into a rhythm. And you're right. I mean, you know, the history of this team with kickers, you just want to see someone come in there and lock it down. And, I thought, you know, through the early parts of last season, like they found their next kicker, their kicker for the next 5-8 years. And right now there's just a little bit of there's a little wonder about, is he going to be able to hold up over the course of time? So, definitely a good pick as someone that could go either way over these next couple of months here.
Your next pick.
I'm going to go sort of more chalky, but I'm going to say Donovan Jackson. I just think that he's a rookie. He's coming in to a team with high expectations. It looks like he's going to be starting, in that group with a revamped group with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries and then O'Neal and Darrisaw. And if he is able to step in right away and be not just a serviceable dude, but like be a real guy and the nasty road grader type that he has projected as coming out of Ohio State, I think that really changes the dynamics of what is achievable up front for this team. And they have other options to look at, and they can pivot off of it. But it feels like if this offense and if this offensive line is going to be elite this season, that Donovan Jackson really sliding in at left guard and being a plus player right away is going to be one of the things that makes that happen.
I'm fascinated by Dallas Turner. He's my next pivotal player. I think his floor is a useful pass rushing specialist. I think his ceiling is a guy who forces his way onto the field for a lot of snaps, maybe even plays inside linebacker in certain sets, maybe even is a interior defensive line pass rusher, or allows Grenard to move inside while he plays outside. There have been moments in camp where he's covered people well downfield. He's almost got a little Anthony Barr was a really good, it was a dynamic young player. My dog's going to scream a little bit here. No emergency. He's just very emotional. He misses me. He hears my voice. Every time I walk out that door after doing podcasts, my dog is like, who are you talking to? What are we missing here? So he's going to scream a little bit. It's okay. Anthony Barr was a dynamic young player who matured into being a very good, versatile NFL player, but wasn't quite the star you'd hope he would be because he couldn't rush the passer. What if Dallas Turner has a lot of Anthony Barr in him and is a great pass rusher? All of a sudden, you're playing him all the time. And now between him and Metellus, you have two guys who can basically play almost anywhere in the field, depending on the situation. I'm fascinated to see how much progress he can make in his second year.
Well, and he's just the guy that if you walk onto the practice field and if you're a fan and you go to one of the open practices or whatever, and you're able to get kind of up close to these guys and really get a read on their size and on who they are physically. I mean, there are very few people that are more impressive from just a physical size, speed combination than Dallas Turner is. I mean, he does remind me in that way of Danielle Hunter. Like, you looked at Danielle Hunter and the way he was put together and just how much bigger and stronger and faster he was than everyone else on the field. It's just like, my goodness, that's what's possible for him. So I think similar to Danielle, what is going to be key for Dallas Turner is not only being physically superior, but not then having the mental part of it down too, and just understanding angles and understanding role and where he fits in to this defense. But maybe early on, the key is going to be Brian Flores identifying opportunities to say, you know what, just get out there and go get the quarterback. And I think he's capable of doing that. So how they deploy him, what they put on his plate, how ready he is to execute, to think the game as well as play the game is going to, ultimately determine where he goes in this league. But yeah, I mean, he is, you look at me and say, yeah, well, I understand why they traded up to get him. Like, I understand why they want it. I mean, look at the dude. He's unbelievable. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that too. I think that's a very good pick.
All right. We each have one pick left. Who's your last pick?
I am going to go with, I think I'm going to say TJ Hawkinson because I think that he was on the cusp or there to being an elite tight end in this league. And then he got hurt. And last year he went through the comeback and he never was the Hawkinson that we saw immediately after they traded for him from Detroit. And so I think that they really could use him returning to form in a major way to give JJ McCarthy that safety blanket over the middle, that big, strong, sure-handed tight end that you can throw to on 3rd and 8 and he can get you 11, that you can throw to on 3rd and 6 and he's going to get you 9. Like those types of plays to keep the chains moving and be reliable. I like Josh Oliver. I like some of their other options, but I just think that you look at Hawkinson and what his ceiling is, it's much, much higher than anybody else at that position group. And so for a young quarterback, having not just a reliable, like steady tight end, but having someone that can be a playmaker, at that position is going to be key for what this offense is capable of doing. And so that you can go from being just the offense that scores just enough to support your great defense to one that can score enough and can produce enough to blow teams out. And so like, that's what I think Hawkinson can give if he is all the way back, fully healthy and back to being what we saw he was before that injury.
All right. I have 3 choices for my last choice. I'm not going to do JJ McCarthy, too obvious. I'm not going to do third tight end, too obscure. I think they'll find a functional third tight end. It's a bit of a mystery who that's going to be at the moment. So I'm going to go somewhere in the reasonable middle. And this is probably another obvious one, but it's one I'm really fascinated by. Jordan Mason. Okay, not only is he a good 1B running back or backup running back, whatever you want to call him, the reality is Aaron Jones is just not that big a dude. He's not tall. He's not thick. He's really savvy. He's smart. He has a great feel for the game. He's a wonderful player. I love watching him play, but I don't expect him to stay healthy. And I also I think there are many times when the Vikings look at it and say, okay, he could play this week, but it's better not to play him this week. I think Mason could end up getting a lot of carries this year. If anything does happen, Aaron Jones, I think they will be very happy to use Mason as a workhorse. And I think he will give this offense a different dimension. I think he'll also get a lot of carries inside the 20. I think he will be a very important player. I think he could and I think he'd have a really big season.
Yeah. I absolutely believe that this is not going to be, a 1-2 punch. It's definitely a 1-1 punch. Like Mason is going to get a lot of work. And one of the ways that the Vikings can keep Aaron Jones healthy, or try to, for the playoffs, which is when you're going to need him the most, is by giving Mason more and more of it during the regular season. And so, if you look at, we talked about the fantasy stuff earlier in the show. Like if you're thinking about who to draft as a running back from this offense, I may lean toward Mason in terms of just like, it's possible that by, week 14, 15, when you're in the playoffs of your fantasy league, that Mason is the guy who has gotten more touches than Jones, for the bulk of the season, just in terms of managing workload, whatever injuries that Jones may deal with. But I just think that he is going to be, of all of the quote unquote backup running backs in the league, he has the chance to be one of the most productive and have the most opportunities to make an impact with how hard he runs, with what kind of physicality he adds to the equation. I just think that they're going to love what he brings and going to give him more and more of it as the season goes along, and as he really just kind of shows what dimensions that he brings to the table. So that's a great pick.
And Aaron's a better receiver, and Aaron's going to catch more passes, but so it kind of depends on your fantasy league too. If you're looking PPR, Jones might still bring a lot of value. If you're looking, if you're talking about just, a straight league touchdowns, I think Mason's going to score more points that way. I'm sure we're wrong, but that's what we're going with right now.
There we go.
We'll get into more roster developments. We're going to have a preseason game to talk about. That's going to be a lot of fun. For this week, thanks so much. Please patronize our sponsors. They've been great to us. They're great people to work with. We do appreciate it. Check out the other football shows at TalkNorth.com. Check out our new fantasy football show with Randy Shaver and Kevin Gorg. Check out Jeff Diamond. Check out Alec Lewis. Our hockey show with Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. Baseball show with Roy Smalley and LaBelle E. Neal III. Mark Rosen's show. Don Mitchell's show. Et cetera, et cetera. And our outdoor content. We got a lot at TalkNorth.com. Go check it out. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week.